Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Dean of the Rossier School of Education, Karen Sims Gallagher.
So welcome, everyone. And good afternoon on this great celebration of two of our colleagues. I want to welcome you to this installation ceremony for Doctors Larry Pikas and Gail Sinatra as the new holders of two endowed positions at USC Rossier. Dr. Picus is the Richard T. Cooper and Mary Catherine Cooper Chair in Public School Administration, and Dr. Sinatra as the Stephen H. Crocker Professor in Education. Together, these two professors, along with the Cooper and Crocker families, represent the important ways individual passions and vision come together to create a collective impact for society and for the students that we strive to serve. In addition, these endowed chair faculty positions have been with us long enough that we have a record of impact through the work of 4 former chairholders. I want to thank you all for joining us today, from our students to our alumni to our faculty, friends, and supporters. And as we always do at occasions like this, I have a number of introductions that I want to make before we begin. First, we're very honored to have with us today Mary Cooper, who with her husband Richard Cooper established a chair with a gift in 2001. Dick passed away in 2016, but his memory lives on in today's celebration and in the ongoing impact made by the chair's holders. So thank you, Mary, for being here and for all the support you and Dick have given both the university and USC Rossier through the years. We have a few members of USC leadership I want to introduce. Elizabeth Grady, Vice Provost for Academic and Faculty Affairs. I saw her, thank you for coming. And Earl Pasinger, Vice President for Civic Engagement. I know you're here. I also want to give a special welcome to family members of our 2 honorees, whose support has been essential for these 2 faculty members' professional careers. Welcome, first of all, to Larry's wife, Susan Pasternak. If you'll stand, please. And to Larry's parents, the Honorable Joy Picus and Dr. Gerald Picus, over here. As well as to Larry's son, Matthew. And also here are Dr. Sinatra's husband, Frank Starnes, along with her sister, Joanne Sinatra Hathaway, and brother-in-law, Glenn Hathaway. Thank you. So I don't know what your loyalties are, but you're all now part of the Trojan family. Also with us is the first holder of the Cooper Chair, Gib Henschke. Gib, will you stand? Gib actually preceded me as the first Emory Stoop and Joyce King Stoops Chair Dean at Rossier. So I wanted to acknowledge also another special guest, Joyce King Stoops' daughter, Amy King Dundon Birchold, who is here with her husband, Jim Birchold, and are longtime supporters of USC and Rossier. Back here. So after retiring, there is life after the deanship. After retiring in 2000, Gib became the Cooper Chair in 2003. We're so happy to see you and Peggy here today. Thank you. The Coopers represent a lifelong commitment to education. From Dick's career as a teacher, coach, principal, and area superintendent in Los Angeles Unified School District, to Mary's positions as a first grade teacher in Pasadena Unified School District and as a bilingual teacher in LAUSD, and through her many roles in leadership in her community. They established this chair to support faculty who shared their commitment to urban school districts. They emphasized that the key to children's success lies with well-qualified and committed teachers, assisted by strong administrative leadership. The Crocker Professorship, too, has created a legacy of impact. The Crocker family established this endowment in memory of Stephen Crocker, who had graduated from USC in 1963 and had been a special education teacher. He also taught high school English, foreign languages, and English as a second language. And Dr. Sinatra is the fourth faculty member to hold this professorship since it was established in 1993. The past holders, Joanna Lemlich, Myron Dembo, and Robert Ueda, focused their research on teaching effectiveness and classroom management, curriculum and instruction, teacher behavior, learning and motivation within urban teaching environments. I'm happy to welcome Dr. Dembo to this celebration as well. It's nice to have a former member. Thank you, Myron. In many ways, installation ceremonies remind us of our shared history. This year marks the centennial of USC Rossier as a school of education. I think the focus on each of these two endowments, one on school leadership and the other on teaching and student motivation, represent a double strand that dates back to our beginnings as a school. And these endowments ensure that we will continue to make an impact well into the future. And now I'd like to introduce USC Provost Michael Quick. Michael was appointed provost in April of 2015, and just this spring was newly installed himself as the Shelley and Ofer Nemirovsky Provost Chair. He also serves as Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and as Professor of Biological Sciences in the USC Dornsife College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences. As the university's second-ranking administrator, he oversees all 21 of the academic schools on campus. But that description doesn't do justice to the influential role he plays in pushing each school to be innovative and take risks in order to tackle the most serious challenges that we face in society. This vision has led to the creation of university initiatives focusing on ending homelessness, immigration, and ensuring lifespan health. We're grateful for your leadership, Michael. Please come and welcome you to the stage, and let's welcome the provost.
Thank you so much, Karen. I'm so appreciative of the invite. I want to thank you for that nice introduction, also for your leadership of the school. You're my favorite dean here today. And congratulations to the school, 100 years of both advancing the profession while also serving the public good. I really want to thank the faculty, the students, the staff of the Rossier School for creating the most important voice in the nation for urban education, and for building the twin pillars of both academic excellence and social justice. Your school is a role model, not just for other schools of education, but for our university as a whole, as we seek to execute our core values as an institution. You know, we do a lot of pomp and circumstance at universities, but for me, the best of all of the pomposity is that of installing faculty into endowed chairs, the highest honor that can be bestowed to faculty. You know, the history is a very interesting one, and in your program, in fact, you'll see some data about where the idea of the endowed chair came from. It's actually really fascinating, at least for nerds. But each word, endowed chair, has a special meaning and an important history. As explained in your program, it was literally a chair that professors, when they reached a level of esteem, instead of having just a bench to sit on, they were actually given a chair. And that's what's explained in your program. My favorite story around endowed chairs isn't explained in your program, and that is Galileo. He was being recruited either from the University of Padua to Pisa or vice versa. And one of the attractors was that he would actually get to sit down. There was probably also something about course releases as well, but that's a whole separate issue. The word endowed was just as important. That is, it guaranteed the professor an income that would allow them the freedom to profess and to pursue their work unencumbered. So an avocation became a vocation because of the idea of the endowed chair. Now, if I had a heart, what would touch me the most would be to think of that the earliest chairs, endowed since the 15th century, are still active today, and that there are professors at Oxford and Cambridge sitting in those chairs. That's not to say that history isn't important. To me, though, it signifies what is great about our core mission as a university, the transfer of knowledge through the generations. And more than that the search for truth, the advancing of the frontiers of knowledge never ends. On behalf of all of us in this room and the entire university, I want to thank the benefactors who endow these chairs, for they are honoring the past by allowing us to invent the future. Today, I want to specifically acknowledge Richard T. Cooper and Mary Catherine Cooper, and Stephen H. Crocker and their descendants for contributing to an enduring legacy that represents the core of what a university is and will be long into the future. And finally, to my colleagues, Professors Gale, Sinatra, and Larry Pikas, I've gotten to know each of you over the last several years in different contexts, and I know you represent the best of what it means to be a faculty member: dedication to advancing knowledge, passion for disseminating knowledge, and commitment to service to our university community and to the world. Congratulations to you both.
And thank you, Michael. I think that's a really good send-off for what is going to happen now. So now it is my honor to introduce Dr. Larry Pikas. Dr. Pikas also serves as Associate Dean for Research and Faculty Affairs at USC Rossier. He began at USC Rossier exactly 30 years ago this month. He earned a PhD in Public Policy Analysis from Rand Graduate School, an MA in Social Science from the University of Chicago, and a BA in Economics from Reed College. He is one of the nation's foremost experts on school finance equity and adequacy, and has made a number of important contributions to our understanding of efficiency and productivity in the provision of educational programs for all PK-12 school children. He is the co-developer, along with Alan Auden, of the evidence-based model of school finance adequacy. This model, which is used to estimate the amount of funding necessary to help all children meet states' performance standards, has been used in over 20 states and is the most widely used approach for estimating school finance adequacy. He is co-author, again with Dr. Auden, of School Finance, A Policy Perspective, the leading textbook in the country in the field of school finance. Among his other books are In Search of More Productive Schools, A Guide to Resource Allocation and Education, Developing Community-Empowered Schools, and Principles of School Business Administration. He has published numerous articles in professional journals and consults extensively on school finance issues with states and local governments and districts. Dr. Pikas is the past president of the Association for Educational Finance and Policy and was the president of EdSource, where he was a member of the board of directors for 14 years. Please welcome me and join me in congratulating Dr. Pikas, and if you'll come up here, and Provost too. I'm going to put both of you here. No, actually, I'm going to put you in.
Oh, I have to sit in the chair.
You have to sit in the chair, yeah. Okay, so please accept this chair as a recognition of the importance of this endowment and the responsibility it places on you. Heavy burden, yeah. It places an enormous responsibility on you to help meet the mission and the vision of the USC Rossier School of Education and the University of Southern California. Congratulations. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. There we go. All right. All right, Larry, please. We're looking forward to your remarks.
I didn't know I'd get to sit down before I gave my remarks, but thank you very much. Thank you all. I'm deeply honored and humbled to be named the Richard T. Cooper and Mary Catherine Cooper Chair in Public School Administration. I'd like to thank all of you for being here today and share this great honor with me. There are several people I'd like to specifically thank and mention. First, I guess she's already been introduced, but I want to introduce Mary Cooper. I just met, the Cooper Chair exists because of the generosity of Mary's family. And I've had the pleasure of meeting with Mary and talking with her about my work on several occasions. I look forward to many more opportunities to describe how her family's generosity has supported my work. I thank you very much, Mary, and hope I hold up the honor that this chair would expect. I'm a proud graduate of the Los Angeles Unified School District. And although I never had the privilege of meeting Dick Cooper, you should know that I was a student in the district when he was a leading administrator. Holding a chair with Dick Cooper's name is particularly meaningful because of his leadership. Our school district is part of what enabled me to be here today. So I, again, am deeply honored to have the name Richard Cooper in the name of the chair that I hold. I'd like to thank Dean Gallagher for appointing me to this chair. I've had the privilege of working with her since she became our dean and had the opportunity to serve as a department chair, faculty council chair, associate dean, and of course professor during her tenure. I still recall when you asked me to serve as an associate dean. I left your office not sure whether I was more surprised that you'd asked me to take on that role or that I thought I might actually accept it. The opportunity, it's something about all those course releases or something, Michael. The opportunity to serve as an associate dean and work with you to further the mission of Rossier School of Education has been an exceptional learning experience, and I know all of my work, administrative, teaching, and academic, benefits from the knowledge I've gained in this endeavor. Your guidance and leadership has encouraged me and given me the confidence that I could actually do this work. Thank you for trusting me to carry out these responsibilities, and thank you also for entrusting me with this chair in public school administration. I'd also like to thank Provost Quick. A few months ago, when he was installed as the Shelley and Ofer Nemirovsky Provost Chair, he received a much smaller chair. It was in a glass box, and at the time, he said that he was going to put it on a shelf in his office out of reach so that he would always remember to reach and strive to do our best. Those of you familiar with Wade Phillips Hall know that the ceilings are not high enough to place this chair out of reach. It seemed like such a good idea. So it's my intent instead to place the chair at the conference table in my office, share it with my colleagues who come to the office when we meet. I hope it will encourage all of us to always strive to improve and do our best. The first holder of the Richard Cooper Chair, Richard T. Cooper and Mary Catherine Chair in Public School Administration, is Gib Henschke, who was introduced earlier. But I want to recognize Gib, who was also the first dean I had the privilege of working for. How many people have been a professor for 30 years and only had 2 deans? It's sort of an amazing thing. It says something about how lucky our school has been. But I want to thank you. He remains a friend and a mentor, and I will do my best to uphold the dignity and respect that you brought to this chair. I'd also like to thank my colleagues, the faculty and staff of the Rossier School of Education. As we keep saying, this marks the 30 years since I signed my first contract as an assistant professor. About a week into my new job, I realized that it was the best job in the world. And 30 years later, I wake up every morning and feel exactly the same way. As my administrative duties have grown, I've had the privilege of working with all of our faculty and almost all of our staff on a much more regular basis. Without exception, they are among the smartest, most dedicated, and hardworking group of people I've ever had the opportunity to work with. While I'm being honored here today, I share this award with my colleagues, all of whom are what make Rossier such a great place to be and such a great school. There's some other important people I'd like to recognize today. Most of you have heard me say at one point or another that I'm 63 years old and I'm still blessed to have 2 parents. And they're here today, and it's an honor to introduce them again, my mother and father, Joy and Jerry Picus. Unlike many children today, I was fortunate to grow up in a loving home with a supportive environment filled with intellectual opportunities and daily conversations around the dinner table. Perhaps most important of all, my parents set high expectations and expected us to set ambitious goals for ourselves. There was never a question of whether or not I would go to college, but always the question was, what kind of graduate school do you plan to attend? My mother's a former member of the Los Angeles City Council, and she instilled in me a great interest in and love for politics and public policy. My father, a physicist, helped me develop my inquisitiveness into interesting problems and logical approaches to seeking solutions to these problems. Exactly how that led to a career in school finance is not really clear, but so far it seems to be working out pretty well. I'd also like to introduce the two most important in my world, my son Matthew Picus and my wife Susan Pasternak. Their love has supported me throughout this journey and continues to do so today. Matthew has the strongest sense of integrity and ethics of anybody I know. I approach these difficult decisions. I had to stay in prom in his bar mitzvah. I couldn't say it without talking about him, tearing up a little. I approach difficult decisions asking, what would Matthew do? Meeting the standard he sets is a source of pride for me, and I'm confident he's improved all of my relationships, personal and professional, as well as the quality of my work and my research. So thank you, Matthew. I met Susan while in graduate school, and she's been my partner in this for over 32 years. Her love and devotion keep me going. She's creating a loving home for our family, one to which I eagerly return every day. In recent years, she's worked as a preschool teacher. She comes home every day with joy in her voice, saying, "Let me tell you what my children did today." I love to hear the stories, knowing that the start they get in her class will help them succeed as they advance in school and their careers. So thank you, Susan. I'm looking forward to at least 30 more years as we keep doing this. In the acknowledgments of one of my books, I thank Susan and Matthew for the love and support and wrote, "I'd like to think they'll no longer be awakened to the smell of coffee wafting through the house at 4 a.m. And I put 3 little periods, and I said, but we all know better than that. While I have to say the number of mornings where that happens has decreased, it's still not uncommon for them to wake up and find me over-caffeinated and hunched over my computer. But the question really remains, what have I been doing for the last 30 years? My work is focused on how we raise and spend educational resources to produce student learning. When I started, I thought school finance was the easy part of the work we do here at Rossier, and all I had to do was figure out how to get dollars to schools equitably, leaving the teachers, principals, and other school leaders to do the rest. So I focused on equity in the distribution of revenues to schools and school districts. Equity of funding remains a core issue in school finance, but has been complicated by asking more important questions, like how much money do we need? How should it be used? Over the past 15 years, my colleague Alan Odden and I have developed the evidence-based model of school finance adequacy that Dean Gallagher mentioned. Today, our model is the most widely used approach to answering these questions. By studying the research on how students learn and how schools are best organized for that learning, we've developed a comprehensive set of models to estimate what strong educational programs would look like for all children, regardless of their circumstances, and identified the resources needed to support these programs in children. Over the course, that work has led me to move away from the easy finance stuff and forced me to learn more about what really happens in schools. Fortunately, I've been able to lean heavily on my colleagues at USC and around the country. More importantly, on my many students, all of whom have helped me better understand the complex relationships in our schools. To date, this work has resulted in states providing billions of dollars to schools with the neediest children, ensuring low-income children, children of color, and children with special needs, as well as all other children, have the resources they need to succeed. All of this leads to what has perhaps been the best part of my job at Rossier, our students. They're the people who work in our schools, often under challenging and difficult circumstances. Yet every day they go to work dedicated to helping all students learn. I hope my work has in some small way helped them in this enormous task. I'd like to dedicate this great honor that has been bestowed on me today to our students. They are and will remain my heroes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. I really, it is, we often forget how important family and the experiences that our students are to what we become. So I thank you for reminding us of that. Now I want to introduce our new holder of the Crocker Professorship, Gale Sinatra. Dr. Sinatra has been a professor of psychology and education at USC Rossier since 2012. She spent 10 years on the faculty of the University of Utah and 10 years as a professor of educational psychology at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. She received her BS, MS, and PhD in psychology from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Dr. Sinatra is an internationally recognized expert on STEM learning and motivation. And in particular, she has been a leader in research on climate science education, evolution education, conceptual change learning, and the public understanding of science. Dr. Sinatra has also been a prominent leader in her field through a number of organizations. Just this month, she became president of the American Psychological Association's Educational Psychology Organization, Division 15, a role that also includes oversight of the prominent journal Educational Psychologist, which she edited from 2005 to 2010. She currently serves as an associate editor of the APA journal Psychological Bulletin, which is one of the top-ranked journals in psychology. Among her works is a co-edited volume published by Oxford University Press called Evolution Challenges, Integrating Research and Practice in Teaching and Learning About Evolution. She has just received a $1.5 million grant from the National Science Foundation to develop an augmented reality exhibit at La Brea Museum and Tar Pits, and to explore how the exhibit impacts visitors' science engagement. She is currently writing a book that will explore the psychology of science, resistance, doubt, and denial. Please help me congratulate Dr. Sinatra, and if you will come up as well as Provost Quick. Make the award. Pardon me, you're over here. Was about to give you, okay, you want to do that, okay. But you know that's yours. Well, you got it for about 10 minutes. Yeah. Please accept this chair as a recognition of the importance of this endowment and the responsibility it places with you to help meet the vision and the mission of the USC Rossier School of Education and the University of Southern California. All right, Gail, please. I'm just going to shut this up. There you go. Wow.
I'd like to thank Dean Gallagher and Provost Quick for bestowing this honor upon me. I'm humbled by it, and I hope I can live up to the scholarship and leadership of the past Crocker chairs. Especially Dr. Robert Ureta. Are you here today, Robert? Thank you so much for being here. I am especially grateful to the senior faculty in Rossier for their support in recommending me for the position. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the Crocker family for their generosity in their original endowment of the chair. My mother, who is 97, never finished high school. My father wanted to go to college, but he ended up on a U.S. naval ship in the Sea of Japan. Growing up, very much unlike Larry, I never imagined that I'd have the opportunity to go to college. One summer, I spent a very long 3 months in high school working in a factory. And this factory violated all the existing OSHA laws at the time. And I think it might have been the reason for the invention of several new OSHA laws now in the books. And I knew that I just didn't have the strength of those who work there. And so in the fall, I was the first one in the school counselor's office. And I asked, what's the deal with that college thing? And I mention all this because it seems so unlikely to me that I am standing here with you right now. To me, it seems highly implausible, one might say. I'm truly and deeply honored and extremely grateful. Most of you probably don't know much about my research. I'm passionate about the science of learning and the learning of science. As a young and extremely naive researcher from Massachusetts in my first year as an assistant professor in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the early 90s, I decided to do a reading comprehension study, and I picked a text on biological evolution. I was taught evolution in high school, and my very best friend growing up was a member of the LDS Church, so it was completely surprising to me, and I was very unprepared to find out how Utah students would react. I was particularly taken back by the emotions triggered by the biological passage I had chosen for them to read. The students responded with statements like, if I were to believe that I am related to an animal, I would have no reason to go on living. That just floored me. I have spent the last 20 years trying to understand the emotional and motivational aspects of learning science in K through 12 and higher education. And I'm continuing that work today by exploring the public understanding of science in our newly funded NSF grant in collaboration with the La Brea Tar Pits and the Institute for Creative Technologies to build an augmented reality exhibit. This will help learners to understand about the past and the present at La Brea. Also, along with my collaborator, Dr. Barbara Hofer at Middlebury College in Vermont, we're exploring the psychological aspects of science doubt, skepticism, and denial in a new book to be published by Oxford, as the dean mentioned. Given the current climate in this era of mistrust of expertise, alternative facts, fake news, I hope our work will contribute to a broader understanding of thinking and reasoning in general. In some ways, I feel like the most recent projects on the development of science identity in young women and students of color, and the teaching of evolution in culturally sensitive way to people of faith have really brought me full circle to that first study that I did on evolution acceptance with my Utah students over 20 years ago. I used to play a lot of competitive tennis, and to be honest, I wasn't very good. My advisor, an avid tennis player, he once said to me, Sinatra, he always called me that, Sinatra, you're not a great tennis player, but boy, you sure know how to pick great partners. I have been privileged throughout my entire career to work with some of the best and brightest in my field. And if I have done anything worthy of the recognition here today, it has been with the support and intellectual contribution of so many people. First, I'd like to acknowledge my amazing mentor from my doctoral program, Dr. Mike Royer, who couldn't be with us here today. He taught me how to be a scholar. And more importantly, he taught me how to pay it forward. I'd like to acknowledge my postdoc mentors from the University of Pittsburgh, Dr. Isabel Beck and Dr. Margaret McCowan. Maudie's here with us today. Thank you. Thank you for teaching me how to become an educational researcher. I'd like to thank all my co-authors. There's way too many of them to mention, but I'd like to acknowledge all of my amazing collaborators and thank you for the contributions to my work. Some of the most important contributors to my career have undoubtedly been my amazing students and postdocs who have pushed my thinking as I have tried to just keep up. I'd like to thank each of my doctoral candidates and advisees, including those from my former institution, UNLV. Doctors Ann Sharp, Ann Poliquin, Louis Nadelson, Marcus Johnson, Suzanne Broughton-Jones, Jan Clayson, and Doug Lombardi. Dr. Doug Lombardi is here with us today. Thank you Stand up. And of course, I'd like to thank my former USC Rossier PhD students who are now faculty and postdocs at other institutions, including Drs. Ben Hetty, Robert Danielson, and Ananya Mateos. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge and thank my current students, Ian Thacker, Neil Jacobson, Alana Kennedy, Imogen Hendricks, and as well as my former postdocs, now faculty and professors, Vivian Saranian, Stephen Aguilar, and Ann Kim, and my current postdoc, Jessica Rodriguez. Could you all please stand up? You're my intellectual sparks that have ignited so many ideas, and I'm so grateful to have had you as collaborators. Finally, I'd like to thank my family for all the love and support. First, I'd like to thank my brother, Dr. Paul Sinatra, who showed me that it's possible for someone in my family to become a professor. And this one's hard to get through because he's no longer with us. But if he were here today, I think he'd really enjoy this moment. And I want to acknowledge my sister, also an educator, Joan Sinatra Hathaway, who has made tremendous sacrifices in her own life so that I could even have a career. Would you like to stand up, please, again? And her husband, Glenn Hathaway, who's also done a few things to help me out. And finally, Frank, would you please stand? To my long-suffering husband, thank you for your love and support, your patience, and your tolerance. Without you, there is no me. Thank you, and fight on.
So thank you, Gail. First of all, I had not realized we share being first-generation college graduates, and it does make a difference. But I am rooting for you to help us figure out how we overcome science denial and what we know and how we can work that so we can, as human beings, survive. So thank you. I also want to point out the threads, both from what Michael said about the 500-year-old tradition of endowed chairs, and Larry and Gail both talked about the importance of students. I think that represents not only them, but it also represents the School of Ed. And it's wonderful to be able to celebrate your contributions in the past and what you're going to do in the future. So thank you, and I invite all of you to stay for the reception and to talk to one another and to certainly congratulate both chairholders. Thank you.